Hello, happy people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at The Soldier's Rest by Arthur Machen. It's a part of the 2011 The White People and Other Weird Stories collection that was put out by Penguin Classics that we've been taking a deep dive into. It's the next short story in the collection after the Bowman, so we're referring to the Bowman a lot because it's another genre shift, just like the Bowman was from his normal stuff. Normally, I'd be doing a deep dive into Arthur Machen because of how influential he was in horror. For example, I read this Chaosium collection by him, The Three Imposters, in the winter of 2005 into 2006, when I was following up on my love for all the things in the Cthulhu mythos and reading a lot of those things starting in college, and H.P. Lovecraft collections. And then I enjoyed a lot of that stuff, so I decided to look at some of the influences, and I started reading up on some things like Arthur Machen, who's a key influence. And so I read this collection by Chaosium and that was the last time I read anything by Arthur Machen really, until recently. I had been doing this channel for a few years now, 3 reviews a week, and I only done one Arthur Machen short story, my favorite one I've read so far, The Great God Pan. So I wanted to pick up a collection, this one, that I've been talking about and doing a deep dive into for you, which I'll link for you below in the comments, as well as I'll try to find The Soldier's Rest as well for you for free online on a place like Project Gutenberg. With the idea that I want to do a deeper dive into this for you and read some new short stories, and this is definitely a new short story. So basically what starts off happening with the Bowman, and the Soldier's Rest are written in 1914 and are published very quickly, and are propaganda during the war, pro-British propaganda. What happened with the Bowman is that it's influenced by the Battle of Mons, and at the end it's a 3.5-page short story. And let me get for you the actual date because it's in here in this collection. The Bowman appeared in the September 29th, 1914 edition of the London Evening News, which was a newspaper during the time. It was also just collected the following year in a collection called The Angels of Mons, the Bowman, and Other Legends of the War. And the idea behind this is that it created the Angels of Mons legend in British mythology about all these sort of divine helpings that they were getting during World War I, including winning the Battle of Mons, and that they were being influenced heavily by those things. And that's what it ends up being the central sort of 3.5-page, it's a military short story, but at the end we'll find out that there's divine influence that will help the British win against a big number of Germans. Here, in The Soldier's Rest, which was published the next month, the date of publication was October 20th, 1914. That was September 29th to October 20th. So it was less than a month later, in the same place, the Evening News. And again, it's about 3.5 pages long. Again, it goes over a more divine interpretation of what's happening on the battlefront. Now, during this time, Arthur Machen is also a Battlefront reporter. He has decided to become more of a reporter, and he's dedicating himself to reporting on the lines. So he's reporting for the Evening News of London during this time, and he's writing a lot of articles about what's happening. So he's on the battlefronts, and his stuff has changed in genre as suitingly, and has become much more pro-Britain. His stuff previously that he was writing was very anti-Victorian values. You got a lot of that from short stories like The Great God Pan, the novel The Black Seal, and similar short stories that we've looked, The Inmost Light, and similar short stories that we've looked at. One of the key sort of British airs during this time period, during the Victorian era, is this pro-materialism, that we are nothing beyond our 5 senses. But Arthur Machen is a dyed-in-the-wool spiritualist. He believes that there are things beyond our senses, and whether that's you believe in ghosts and an afterlife, or we have souls, or there's a God and a Satan that are involved in our lives, or whether that's just, we have ESP and psychic powers and 6 senses and that sort of a thing. However your interpretation is of that. But that's the key idea of a spiritualist. And spiritualists were dismissed as just common citizens or buffoons and that sort of a thing. So he is heavily, and most of his short stories that we've reviewed, except for the Bowman and now this, have 2 main characters, one of which is a materialist, typical of his day, and one of which is a spiritualist. And then they'll have conversations and then the spiritualist will be proven. For example, in the white people, which we've reviewed for you, the spiritualist they'll talk for like 8 pages about the nature of evil and what evil actually is, according to this spiritualist. And then the spiritualist will present a book called the Green Book as proof of what he is saying, and then they'll read it, and then they'll have like a 3-page denouement. So that's sort of how these short stories have. Well, for the Bowman and for the Soldier's Rest, this is more of a divine sort of interpretation of war. So these are now military short stories rather than horror ones, or the white people has some fantasy elements to it. This is now more, we have moved into military and religious interpretations of these sort of things. So Arthur Machen is still making the spiritualist argument here in these short stories. It's just from a different place. It's in a different genre of a story. Now, the Bowman was widely believed, even though it was a short story, and it created the Angels of Mons legend, which he will lean into the next year. So he's playing into that. It was a heavily believed, heavily read short story, and now we're reading The Soldier's Rest. Now, in The Soldier's Rest, what's actually happening is that Arthur Machen is painting the British as the good guys and the Germans that they're fighting as the bad guys. The Germans will take actions that are war crimes during this short story in the village that they'll invade with the local populace in the 3.5-page long short story, where we're being recollected by a British soldier who was involved in this. And they're not nice people at all. And the British are the nice, gentlemanly people, as are the French. So the British and the French, the battle in the French countryside, are interpreted as sort of like these nice people that are good people. They're gentlemen. They're self-sacrificing. They're not attacking the civilian and the populace. The British and the Germans are shown as that by Arthur Machen. So there's a very clear good and evil. He doesn't have a lot of like latitudes, right. The characters, the good characters don't have like aspects of evil to them or selfishness to them, and the bad characters don't have aspects of good to them and redemption to them. So it feels very one-dimensional, therefore, as a result. It's definitely, he's intending this as a pro-British, again, and he's turned into much more of a pro-British propaganda stuff during the World War I, and this is a clear example of this, again. But the key question that's being asked here is, we're going to watch it, we're going to listen to a battle from a veteran, and then the key question that is answered here is, what happens to good soldiers who die? And that is sort of the key question that is answered in these 3.5 pages. Again, with a divine interpretation. But it's a military story, not a horror one. And so it's very similar to the Bowman. It's definitely a genre shift by Arthur Machen during these few years. And I don't think it's to his credit. Although you still have his sort of spiritualist interpretation of things, which is definitely a Machen thing, I don't think that this style of writing suits him. And I don't like the very white and black definitions of the characters in this. Just because they're on different sides of the war doesn't mean that they would actually act, with one doing massive war crimes and the other being just absolute gentlemen and self-sacrificing. So I don't like that either, and I don't think that this genre of writing is to Arthur Machen's credit. So I'm giving it only a 6, just like I gave the Bowman, out of 10. But if you've read it, let me know. And this will take you very little time. I mean, this took me like less than 10 minutes for me to knock it out last night for the first time. And if I find it online, you won't have to spend any money on it. So that's also nice. And again, if you haven't read it, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I try to keep these reviews spoiler-free, but if you do want to talk about spoilers in the comments, please feel encouraged to do so. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing in watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.